fact, the Business Administrator Board Secretary has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, communicated to the Herald News, the Record, and filed with the Clerk of the Borough of Hawthorne. Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr.
Present.
Mr. Clavio.
Here.
Mr. Doyle.
Here.
Ms. Erentraut.
Here.
Dr. Morrell.
Present.
Mr. Palouse.
Here.
Mr. Shortway.
Here.
Mrs. Totaro.
Present.
Mrs. Goff.
Here. Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Meeting regulations. During each regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to ask questions and to make comments. During the first opportunity early on the agenda, the meeting is open to the public for the purpose of addressing items listed for approval on this agenda only. The second opportunity occurs just prior to adjournment, when citizens may address any subject matter that is pertinent to and/or directly related to the operation of the school district. Persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, state their name, address, and subject matter. Comments and questions shall be addressed to the board president or the presiding officer and shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. The board may or may not respond to issues raised by members of the public at the time they are raised, but will provide a response if and when appropriate. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Please note that the board will not respond to comments regarding students or board employees in light of the privacy rights held by those individuals. Moreover, the board discourages comments about such individuals and will not be responsible for such comments. Members of the public who choose to speak during this public session should carefully consider their comments, since they could be held personally liable for any statements they make. Finally, please note that in accordance with the district policy, the board will not officially comment or respond to any matter mentioned unless it can confirm the matter has first been brought to the attention of the appropriate school personnel in an attempt to resolve the issue. Publicly heard agenda items only. Approval of minutes for the September 19th, 2023 regular meeting, both public and private. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Clavijo, seconded by Mr. Carr. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut.
Yes.
Dr. Morrell.
Yes.
Mr. Palouse.
Yes.
Mr. Shortway.
Yes.
Mr. Totaro.
Yes.
Mr. Carr. Mr. Clavio.
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Correspondence. I did receive a letter from Mr. Bertolo of the Boys and Girls Club inviting us to the 30th annual Every Kid Counts Awards Dinner on Thursday, November 9th, which happens to be both my birthday and the first day of Teachers Convention. It will be held to recognize the accomplishments of many outstanding club members and express the appreciation to the most generous club supporters. This event is happening at Macaluso's, and if you'd like to attend, I have the information here, and tickets are $45 per person. So I do have that if any board members wish to attend that event. That is all for correspondence on my part. Dr. Sprito, do you have any correspondence?
I do not.
Okay. Student council report, Ms. Kemps.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me again for tonight's meeting. It's Beartober and there's no time to waste, so let's jump right in. Starting off strong with Student Council, we've been very busy with our Beartober events. The school store has been thriving with new merchandise on the way, and we've also sold out all of our homecoming t-shirts for this year's game and ceremony. Spirit Week is October 16th through the 20th, with hallway decorating happening the night of the 19th. The bonfire was a great success thanks to our community who came together to raise donations from Pantheon Construction, FDR Hitches, help from Downs Tree Service, and the fire department, which helped make the event such a success. We had close to 400 people there who each paid $5 in admission. As for our other clubs, on Friday, October 20th, 10 of our peer leaders will be attending the Passaic County Teen Summit and William Patterson University. The theme of this year's summit is Resisting the Trends. These students will listen to guest speakers, participate in team building activities, and will receive the project that all peer leaders will work on throughout the year. Peer Leaders is a club open to all grades at Hawthorne High School. The Sophomore Class Council was able to raise $4,664 through their Double Good popcorn sale. They extend their gratitude to everyone who participated and supported the class of 2026. As for the senior class of 24, we are currently selling holiday wreaths through October 22nd. Students are encouraged to sell 15 wreaths to receive a free winter dance ticket. This sale is ongoing, so contact any senior for more information. The Performing Arts Club kicked off their very first time 2 weeks ago. 16 students are preparing scenes for the winter concert and are working on a Rockette-inspired dance piece affectionately named the Hawthornettes. In addition to the winter concert, the Hawthornettes are putting together dates to perform for the Hawthorne Senior Center, Van Dyke Senior Home, and working on participating for Hawthorne's Christmas tree lighting event. Additionally, next Wednesday, the 18th, the high school dance classes are excited to have Los Patulecos de New Jersey, a Colombian dance company, visit to perform for us, teach some traditional steps, and have a Q&A with the students to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. The Hawthorne High School Fall Play has been announced, and it's Anne of Green Gables. The show has been cast and rehearsals have already begun. They're welcoming many new faces to the theater program this year, continuing the high school's proud tradition of excellence on the stage and the performing arts. The spring musical for 2024 will be announced within the next few weeks. The school counseling department has been very busy this fall as well. College admissions reps have been meeting with juniors and seniors from schools such as Seton Hall University and Sacred Heart University, among many others. On Thursday, October 12th, the department hosted a fall college fair with over 20 colleges and representatives from the National Hispanic Institute. Looking ahead, Naviance Parent Night will be held on Wednesday, October 25th. This session will focus on providing all parents information on how to access Naviance, an efficient program used to make college applications simpler. And now for Bear Sports. On Tuesday, October 10th, the boys and girls soccer teams joined forces to bring awareness to breast cancer and support those in our soccer community who have fought and are currently fighting it. It was a great way to bring both teams together and show support for the Hawthorne community. On the 18th, both the girls and boys soccer team will be joining forces yet again for a fundraiser at Yellows in Hawthorne. Be sure to come support our teams by grabbing a bite to eat for lunch or dinner, and just mention soccer when you order. As for football, congratulations to them for winning the NJIC Meadowlands Division Championship. Their record's currently 5-2. They played Rutherford Friday night, which ended with a loss of 28-20. We also had our homecoming ceremony that night, where we announced the 2 winners from each grade as they walked down the field and were crowned homecoming court. Our tailgate before the game was also a success, where families and friends could rent spots for $20 each to get ready and have fun before the game. Overall, it's been a great fall season for all Bear sports. And last but not least, there's a pasta dinner coming up on Thursday, October 26th in the Hawthorne High School cafeteria. Seating takes place from 5:30 to 6, and takeout will be available as well. There's also going to be a 50-50 raffle taking place, so be sure to get in on this fun opportunity to support the HHS Marching Band. That'll do it for today's report. Thank you for the community as well as the board's continued support as we make our way through this year's fall semester. And as always, go Bears.
Thank you, Ms. Counselor, for your report. Dr. Sprito, Superintendent's report.
Okay, so I have quite a few things that we need to discuss or go over tonight, but I'd like to start by asking Raina Leosa from the Hawthorne Green team. She has a presentation that she'd like to make.
Mary's coming up with me too.
That's fine, no problem.
I think they're upside down.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's not. You know what? Need any help?
No kicking, okay?
Hold on. Took all my arm. No, it is.
Only blackjack
They're all upside down. Are they all different? No, they're all the same. Oh.
She started day 4 blackjack.
So do we need? Oh.
I need to state my name or anything like that, sign in.
Just for the record.
For the record, okay. Raina Lewisa, Hawthorne Environmental Commission Green Team Chair, as well as Mary Mahon, she's my vice chair. So I just wanna, it's been 11 years since, I'm not moving this, since the last one downstairs broke. So we, several years ago, put together a green map. And it truly is the green map of the natural resources of Hawthorne. It has all the schools, it has the parks, the recreation areas, the public buildings, historical features, houses of worship, and transportation. And it's really been the cornerstone of our branding of the Environmental Commission Green Team. For our buy local campaigns, to really get people out walking and about in the town. Now, this was twofold. It's called the Open Green Map, where all these are icons and they represent different things like birds and recreation and cultural rebuilt site, dog run, like all these symbols mean something. And so it's an online mapping system. So all this information's in the mapping system, description. Well, not any, we were trying to get people to do the mapping system, but you know what? Everyone wants a map. And Hawthorne has all the streets, has everything on here. So this is what we've been giving out. So we gave all the schools, public and private, these framed green maps. Now, 11 years have gone by. Lots have happened. Good things have happened. Things have added to the green map. And it was time to update the maps, but also come to the 21st century. So some of the couple of things I just want to really highlight on the new maps. So one is the,
I was actually, Raina, I was just gonna take one and hold it while you
Oh,
keep-
sure.
You can keep talking. They can see
okay.
it.
Okay.
I'll hide behind it.
All right. Do I need the mic?
No, it's not even on, I don't think.
Okay, good, okay. So we've got the Hawthorne Band Shell, the Community Garden, the Farmers Market, the 9/11 Memorial. We've updated the Ray Mansion because there was a name change. It's officially John W. Ray House. But one of the new things that we've added the last couple of years is one, the Neighborhood Preservation Program. So that is all in yellow. That is an area that's been designated for redevelopment, revitalization, get people out walking and about, and really, you know, highlight the recreation areas that we have. Also, we have the gateway to the Passaic River, which was the 2 rain gardens that we built, and there's a walkway to get to the river and really try to get access to the river. The Diamond Bridge Fields, the Passaic County changed things, so we updated the ball fields here. But the real thing that I'm really excited about is this 21st century QR code. So, and they do work, because I've checked like multiple times, so of course this, so when you hit the QR code, it will click right to the green map. So I know it's really small, to the green map. And what you do is you just click on any of the icons. Here, we'll pick up on the 8-acre woods. And there's a description about the 8-acre woods, and all that information is there. So it's really an interactive tool. We got the QR code, we've got the map. And so what I'd like to do is present, Mary and I would like to present this to the principals that are here. And also take a picture as well, if we can. So this was all started by interns. Eric Pinos really helped tremendously with the Open Green Map system, and I've been maintaining it all these years. And then Donna Cohen, our graphic artist, who put this all together. So it's just been a work in progress. Maybe we'll see you again in 10 years if things happen, if more things happen in the town. But you know, who knows? Maybe expanding the neighborhood preservation program. You never know. But I think we've captured everything. There were some streets missing. We added them. It was nice when you have Hawthorne Day, someone comes up to me like, "Where's my street?" And it was up in this area. And I'm like, I don't know. We made a point of getting all the streets. And actually, the police worked with Guy, and we highlighted the apartment buildings with the streets and everything to help the police officers find locations. And so my police are also using the green map as a tool. and especially for our new police officers.
We have them that big in our cars.
Oh, I'm sure. So, Rick, how do you want to?
Yeah, well, I just asked the principals, most of the principals are here. Dr.
Okay.
Drosky couldn't be with us, but
Okay.
the principal, Mr. Mazzatti,
Then you
in
can-
high school. So if you guys want to come up.
Yeah.
What do you want? How do you want to get all of it?
Are you? Yeah.
I'm just taking pictures.
He's more important.
Guys, come up front. Yeah, come up.
They're all from this. They're popping out. They're all popping. Like. No.
Just meeting grab
You are the principal of our line here.
You're gonna have to back up there, just slide back. Grab one of those. Charlie, you're gonna take two. Dr.
Okay.
He is.
Why don't you hold Dr. Drosky's and get in the middle?
Yeah.
There you go, Dr. Sprito.
Yeah.
Photo op.
Thank
you. Picture guy.
Cool.
Good.
You want me to take one?
Can I point to where I grew up?
2, 3. All right, I got a few. I got everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can, you know, we can, now, we'll have them delivered to you, so you don't have to carry them out of here, but
Well, that's a good
just
idea.
leave them up here and we'll be all right.
Awesome. And hopefully this will spur some work with the schools about the science and math programs, and we can do the environmental program in June. I'm going to try again, Dr. Sprito.
Yeah?
So-
Yes.
So, you know, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate you
Thank
coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the green team. This is a lovely addition to our schools. Dr. Sprito, the SSDS and the HIP.
Yeah, I have a number of things to share, so if you just bear with me. I want to thank Raina Leosa for coordinating this and organizing it. I know she asked a few months ago, you asked for the old ones back, and here we are, you know, accepting the new ones. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. And we'll make sure that they are hung prominently in our schools. So thank you for putting those together. Okay, a few things to report, and then I'm sharing some information about things going on in the district. So number one, I want to mention on October 5th, we had a wonderful open house at Hawthorne High School. We had a decent turnout. We appreciate everyone who did attend. We appreciate, you know, our students who provided tours for our visitors and guiding parents through the building that evening. We also had our sports teams and our clubs in attendance, so hopefully everyone had a chance to come out and see all the great things happening at Hawthorne High School. And we hope to do something similar in the coming months, just to encourage others to come. I know some people had sporting events and practices they weren't able to attend, so hopefully we can host another event where we can have some of those who weren't able to attend join us at Hawthorne High School to see all the great things that are happening. And I want to thank our student rep, Bree Counselor, for her report. I mean, she did a great job of sharing many of the good things that are happening. As you can see, there's a lot of things going on at the high school, and there's a lot to come. I know this week is Spirit Week, and we have hallway decorating coming up, and so a lot of exciting things to come as well. It's a great atmosphere, and you know, again, I appreciate all the things you shared, not only about school events, but our athletic teams who've done a great job this fall season, and in fact, I want to mention that also our high school band, so the high school band, the marching band, participates in competitions throughout the year, and at their recent competition at Midland Park, they placed first. So I'll just read what it says. Congratulations to the Hawthorne High School marching band for placing first at Music in the Parks at Midland Park. In addition to their victory, the band won awards for Best Marching, Best Percussion, and Best Guard, color guard. So great job to the marching band as well. So it's not just our athletic teams, but our marching band. And Bree mentioned the Hawthornettes also, who will be participating in some of the town events coming up. So we're excited about that as well. She mentioned that they'll be at the tree lighting on December 1st, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more about the Hawthornettes, our new dance program at the high school as well. So excited to share all of those things happening in our high school, and look forward to sharing more about things going on throughout the district. Some other information that I want to share tonight is there are 2 weeks in the month of October that we recognize. One is called the Week of Respect, and one is known as School Violence Awareness Week. So October 2nd through 6th, something called the Week of Respect, and there are activities in all of our schools in regard to resolving conflict peacefully and managing anger. This week also, during this week, we have presentations by our staff in our guidance department as well as other staff members in our district. Occasionally we have outside speakers. There are fun activities as part of Spirit Weeks, academic activities that focus on respect, responsibility, cooperation, faith in yourself and others, and much more. This current week is something called School Violence Awareness Week, and during that week we have activities geared toward the awareness and prevention of school violence and bullying. These activities also include assemblies to address the issues discussed throughout the week. So I did share some of the activities with the board in the board packet at all of our schools, and there's activities at every level. There's different events that take place each day throughout the weeks, the Week of Respect and School Violence Awareness Week. Okay. The other thing I wanted to share tonight is something that we're required to report publicly. One is our something called our HIB, Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying Grades Report, which is required by the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, and something else called our Student Safety Data System Report. So I'll start with that, our Student Safety Data System Report. And each year, the superintendent is required to report incidents of violence, vandalism, substance abuse, weapons offenses, and HIBs to the governing body twice annually. There's 2 periods that we report on, September through December and January through June. Tonight I'll be reporting on January through June of last school year. And I'm going to give you just the numbers from that period as well as the overall numbers for the school year. So last year we had 7 total incidents, 1 incident of violence, which could be a fight. That's an example when we talk about violence. 0 incidents of vandalism, 0 of substance abuse, no incidents of weapons, and 7 confirmed HIBs. That was part of last spring's report, January through June. Overall, for the entire school year, we had 17 total incidents. And again, 1 incident of violence, no incidents of vandalism, substance abuse, or weapons offenses, and 16 confirmed HIVs. So that's that report. Again, that's something we're required to share publicly each year. The other thing that we're required to share is something that we do as a school district. It's a self-assessment. So each school completes what's called a harassment, intimidation, and bullying self-assessment for their school. So I'm going to share, and again, bear with me, this is a little bit of a longer report that I'll share. But during the month of September, the administrators and school safety team in each building completed the required comprehensive self-assessment of the building's programs, initiatives, and procedures for investigating and reporting. The self-assessment process includes the gathering of documentation to evidence the ratings provided. The self-assessment consists of 8 core elements, each with 2 to 5 indicators to be reviewed. Schools could receive a score of 0, meaning they don't meet the requirements, a 1, partially meet, a 2, which meets the requirement, 3 exceeds, or 3 that exceeds the requirement. The 8 core elements are as follows: HIB programs, approaches, and other initiatives, training on the BOE approved HIB policy, other staff instruction and training programs, curriculum and instruction on HIB and related information and skills, HIB personnel, school level HIB incident reporting procedures, HIB investigation procedures, and HIB reporting is number 8. All 5 of the buildings scored above the 50 points required to meet all the state requirements in this area. All the scores either improved or remained the same throughout the district. The maximum score a building can achieve is a 78, which would mean that the district exceeded all requirements in all indicators in every core element. So again, we've exceeded those scores of that 50 points in each building. And in the 23-24 school year, the following areas have been targeted district-wide in an effort to continue to enhance our existing programs. A, continue training beyond the required 2 hours for all students staff on our BOE-approved HIB policy, HIB reporting procedures, as well as preventative strategies for students and parents throughout the district. This will be accomplished through the programs offered in the 2023-2024 school year. These programs include large and small group presentations to students and parents or guardians on strategies to prevent HIB and the updated HIB reporting form via Hipster. Staff will continue to be offered training through our Safe Schools training program and receive training from anti-bullying specialists and other outside presenters, which will be taking place in the next couple of weeks. Schools will continue to infuse SEL into lessons and programs. Anti-bullying initiatives include the Week of Respect, Violence Prevention Awareness Week, and Red Ribbon Week, which will be celebrated in each building. Increased communication, training, support, and guidance for all of our school anti-bullying specialists, specifically on the utilization of HIPSTER, which is a program we use for our HIV incidents. Newsletters will continue to provide resources for students and parents and guardians, and they typically come out through our guidance department. And continued participation in programs like No Place for Hate and Heroes and Cool Kids programs to support positive peer relationships. So again, that's our self-assessment that we share each year with our board and with our community. And the only other thing that I have today is actually a presentation from Dr. Trevona, who's going to be sharing our district testing report.
Me again. Oh, God. Getting comfy here.
I never get sick of your presentation.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to leave that to you this. Yeah, I don't need a mic. Hi, everybody. So I do want to preface by starting that the format is a little not like my normal format. I normally have very colorful charts and pretty graphs, but this year we went with the state template. Primarily because we're in a QSAC year, we wanted to make sure that we really hit every target that was in the scoring part. So bear with me as it's maybe a little drier than my normal, but it really does go into the same data that we go into. Basically what we're looking at is we're looking at the 4 major assessments that are required to be given to our students in the spring of each year. That's our NJSLAs in English, Language Arts, Math, and Science. New Jersey NJGPA, which we spoke about last meeting, the dynamic learning maps, which is the equivalent to the NJSLA for our most severely learning disabled students. It's less than 1% of our population that take that, and the Access for ELS for our multilingual learners. We're going to start with our ELA data. And like I said, basically what's going to happen is we're going to give just a lot of raw data, so I'm going to go through that very quickly. That's something that the board has access to in the folder if you want to dig through it deeper, but I'm reporting. This just gives an overall of what our numbers look like in comparison from 22 to 23, whether a grade level increased or decreased. The only reason that really becomes relevant is if you really are a math person, when you start looking at your percentages and percent comparison, it could have an effect on that, but we're not going to worry too much about that. What you're going to realize next is we have the overall percentages. We're comparing in all of the levels, level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and we're looking at 2022 compared to 2023. What I want you to focus on is all the way to the right, the column all the way to the right where it has the most green highlighted. That is combining and looking at our percent increase of students, or our percent change of students from 22 to 23. So all those that are highlighted there in those grade levels, 5 out of the 7 grade levels, showed that we increased in percentage in those areas. That's what you want to do. That means the number of our students increasing 4s and 5s or gaining proficiency is increasing. We do have some areas on the column right to the left of that, which is a change in 1 to 2. We want that to go down, and not always does it go down, but you'll see in comparison to the state, it doesn't always go down in comparison to the state either. But we do note that in 7th grade, even though we didn't have an increase we had a decrease in the number of students who achieved a 4 or 5, we did decrease the number of students who got a 1 or a 2. So that means we moved more of our students to that level 3, which is approaching the expectations and bringing us to an area of getting towards proficiency. So that's where we start to target our instruction. This next slide is going to basically compare the levels, the changes in levels in Hawthorne compared to the changes in levels by the state. So we're pretty consistent. We outperform the state in most of these, where if the state increase was 0% or negative 1.3%, we were increasing by a faster rate. That's a great attribute to our district. What I do want to highlight is we have 2 areas in 4th grade and 6th grade where we significantly outperform the states. I highlighted those in green. And then I want to say that we are digging deeper into this 9th grade data right now. But there are some things that we started to come out with in the 9th grade data. So we had a very large increase or a percent change in our 9th graders that got 1s and 2s. So we have to figure out why. That's something that us as an admin and a data team we're digging into. And we also need to see why did we have such a large or a significant decrease in our 4s and 5s. One of the first things that we noticed with that is that in the 22 to 23 school year, or in any of the school years, we have a significant number of our student numbers, our total class size from 8th grade to 9th grade significantly decreases. With that significant decrease, the natural brain goes to, we are losing some of our top students possibly elsewhere, so our pool of students who are testing are not as high achieving. So that is why you see such a significant drop from 3 through 8 and then to 9. So I highlighted that in yellow just so you can see that a little bit. The next 3 slides, again, are raw data. I'm not going to go through them. It's literally comparing grade level and proficiency level, giving you Hawthorne's number compared to the state number. What I did was, we basically are going to summarize that. We summarized that already. Sorry, let me go back for a second. And I'm going the wrong way. Gamer. It's not going, oh, backwards. Sorry, it's the other arrow. I was trying to go quick. So basically, the next 3 slides are what gave us this slide data. So it's just the raw data feeding up to that. Really nothing there. You can see though, even in all our areas, if you look and glance, we are above the state. Some areas we're only slightly above the state, but we are still above the state average, which is a goal that we want to continue, that we've had since I've been here, and will continue to progress forward. What I really want to highlight right now is digging down some of our elementary data. So what we took at is we're looking specifically at 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade language arts right now. This is 3rd grade, and we looked at it across Roosevelt, Jefferson, Washington, and then compared to the district, because the first data I gave you was just the district. But I want to shout out right now Thomas Jefferson and Washington in 3rd grade. Thomas Jefferson had a significant increase as well as Washington had a significant increase. So we're showing we had an overall increase as a district, but those 2 schools are what skewed our overall percentage. Roosevelt had a slight decrease. Again, there are some contributing factors to that. One of the contributing factors is the idea that it houses our special ed population. So sometimes that's hard to overcome. Now, do realize though that accountability, if a student is placed in Roosevelt, does not, and they are a Jefferson student, Jefferson is accountable for their scores. So there's something called a resident school versus an accountable school. So if a child is attending Roosevelt, but they should be a Jefferson student, Roosevelt doesn't get knocked for having that student there if they do not perform well. All the students that should be Jefferson students are accounted for in the Jefferson numbers. Because otherwise what you would see is your numbers would be completely skewed with that. 4th grade again, this one shifts a little bit. Roosevelt and Jefferson were the ones who outperformed. Washington stayed completely consistent. But again, we're well above the average. We're above 50%. We're making the gains that we want to see. And in 5th grade, it flip-flopped. So all of our schools are working. All of our schools are making gains. And we're getting to the green. We have a lot of green on here, which is what we like to see. One of the things that I normally look at and that we're looking at, and I will provide the board with some like written report on, is we're comparing 2022 to 2023, and what some people don't realize is that's 2 different subsets of students. So we're really comparing apples and oranges, and we're looking at the consistency of the test. But you're not, the same students aren't taking the test. So sometimes that can be a contributing factor. So we're starting to pull out and tease out some cohort data where we look at how did they do in 3rd grade, then how did they do in 4th grade, how did they do in 5th grade. Here's our breakdown for ELA by demographic. What we specifically teased out was our MLs, our multilingual learners. I will explain why that says NA across the board. Economically disadvantaged and students with disabilities. As you can see in the lower grades, we have a little more success in language arts overall, though we do have success regardless of demographics, we are still succeeding with our populations. The reason the majority, except for grade 7, or no, I'm sorry, grade 9 is it's less than 10 students. If less than 10 students are the group, the subgroup, we can't report on that because then it could be somewhat identifying as to what their scores were. So that's what all the NAs are. So in each of the grade levels, you'll see in a later slide, depends on what level or what number of students took it. So in 9th grade, we had over 10 students, so we were able to say that 9.1% of the population that took it met or exceeded the expectation for English language arts, which is a really good attribute for multilingual learners. We're going to go into math. It's going to follow the similar format, so bear with me. We have raw data. It's looking, the difference is pretty much the same because you're looking at the grade bands. Sometimes you have a little different based on a child's IEP, based on whether a child was sick and took the makeup, but it's very slightly, it's not a significant difference. Again, we're focusing on that right-hand side of the slide presentation, the column. Again, we have in this area, we go 3 through 8 and then Algebra 1 and Geometry. So we have 6 out of 8 of our areas successfully increasing a significant percentage from 22 to 23. To highlight, in grade 8 also, we had a significant decrease in our 1s and 2s. So grade 8, we moved more kids to the 4s and 5s, and we moved less kids out of the 1s and 2s. So we're seeing that shift, which is really well. Again, we'll continue to look at why we see some of the positive increase in the 1s and 2s. What happens a lot is what we like to call in education our bubble students. So you can have a student who's right on the cusp of a 1 or a 2, and that could be a 1 question difference. So, or on the cusp of a 2 and a 3, and that could be a 1 question difference, where 1 less question right pushes them to that, and now we're reporting on it. So we'll look at that. Know that our teachers get the raw data for their students, for the students they taught, plus the students they have currently. So they have 2 sets of data to dig through so they can individually look at students, make sure they're making the proper recommendations for supports and stuff like that. This is just the aggregate of everything. When you compare us to the state again, in that 3rd column, we're outperforming the state by a lot. We're increasing where we need to be increasing, but we're significantly increasing. So I didn't highlight the 2.5% increase because it was only 2% more than the state, but we were almost double the state in 4th grade. We were triple the state in 5th grade. Like, those are huge gains that we haven't seen for a while here. So we really feel that we're moving in the right direction. Do we have work to do? We always have work to do. But this is a good place to be at. We are also seeing 2 significantly higher areas of the decrease in grades 4 and 8. So that 8th grade is something we're going to dig deeper into because it's consistently coming up as an area that's promising for us right now. The next 3 slides are going to be that raw. What you also have to realize is that grade 8 data is one of the ones that normally isn't our best because at grade 8, the math branches. So you have your grade 8 students, and then you take your top tier and you put them in Algebra 1. So you're taking your top tier students out of that 8th grade data, and we're still outperforming where we were in 2022. So that's a really kudos to our 8th grade math teachers. This is the raw data I was talking about. We're consistently in all levels above the state. We're doing what we need to be doing, and we're gonna work with that. So here, I really need to shout out Washington School, and I wish Mrs. Spinelli did not leave, because so often we stand here and we look at Washington Wildcats and we're trying to get them on the grid, and Washington Wildcats killed it in math this year in 3rd and 4th grade. Our schools did good. We're consistently teetering around 42% at Roosevelt, 56 to 54, not a significant difference at Jefferson. Washington went from 49 to 62%. You're looking at, I think it's 62, yeah. You're looking at a 13% increase, and I'm gonna tell you why that happened in a minute, and I'm really excited because the board's gonna be approving something that has to do with that. I might steal from Dr. Morrell's report right now, and I apologize. But when I went over, and I personally went over to congratulate Miss Bezlera, Bejrami, and Miss Laspiza, because the effort that they put into a before-school program that was offered to the entire Washington population for Title I funding really showed gains. Basically, Washington offered segmented sessions of before-school help to every third grader and every fourth grader. Those students came in, they were filtered out by ability, so we had our high group, our middle group, our low group with different teachers in the morning for 30 minutes for 3 different 5-week cycles. And we were really able to work them to that next level. So we were able to bring our 1s to 2s, our 2s to 3s. And the other 2 schools didn't do that because this was a piloted Title I program. We now see that we need, as a board, a way to figure out how to do this for the other schools because we're seeing the gains. That is the only difference. One of the things that I make sure in my job is that the curriculum, the programming is consistent across the schools. But with Title I funding, we were able to pilot this program, and now we're going to ask you to support us piloting it moving forward at all 3 elementary schools this year using some Beyond the School Day ESSER funding. Get ready, because they had a 27% increase in math, which has been Hawthorne's heel for a while in 4th grade. So that is a kudos to Miss Pisacreta and Miss Waldron. Again, Dr. Spirito can attest to this. When I went over with the data to Mrs. Spinelli, I told the teachers, they were excited. Mrs. Spinelli, Mrs. Mention, I'm sorry, got so excited, she called Dr. Spirito and she called her other colleagues to rub it in just a little bit. But they were very excited for her. But as you can see, we're doing really well there. 5th grade, our shout out goes to Roosevelt with the biggest increase. Again, we're gonna give kudos to where kudos belongs. We're not doing bad. We increased in all 3 of the areas. I'm just highlighting that school that had the biggest gains and increase. We are also going to extend this program to 5th grade, which we did not do that. Because of the departmentalizing, we didn't know if we had enough specialists to do it, but we're working on recruiting our teachers to do that. Demographic data, very similar. You will see that in our subgroup data, it's not as high in math. Again, that is an area that struggles, especially with our students with disabilities. Sometimes that is a more abstract concept that's spiraling, and it becomes a little more difficult, and that's why I don't think we see our gains as quickly. Science, again, numbers. Here's our comparison of science goes levels 1 through 4. 3 and 4 is where you want to be. As you can see, we consistently, in 8th grade and 11th grade, we had a positive increase in science. We had a negative in 5th grade. We're attributing that a little bit to we shifted programs. We implemented a new program, and what we're realizing is that program needs a little bit more of a supplement. And that supplement needs to focus a little bit more on the data analysis and graphing and some of those basic skills that we're seeing. So what's happening is, even though we have the new program Mystery Science and it's doing hands-on experiments, we have to supplement a little bit more with what they're doing with the data they're collecting. So we're hoping that with the supplements we're putting in this year, that that's going to show an increase next year. What's very ironic is when you compare us to the state, again, we're on par with it. We do outperform it in 3 areas. That's good. But this is what's really interesting, and this is something as a former science teacher, science supervisor, and this test has been here for a while now. We have to call action a little bit to the state because us and the state have 80% of the students not achieving a 1 in this test. So they're giving us standards, we're writing curriculum, we're implementing based on the standards, but then we're seeing a test that is not reflective possibly of that. And I think as administrators, what our job is to really start putting some pressure and going to the state and say, we consistently, year after year, have 80% of the state's population, or 75–80% of Hawthorne's population in the area of 1, there has to be a flaw somewhere in the system. Something's not equaling. So yes, our scores are not great. I will not stand up here and say they are great. They're not great. But nobody's is great in this test. So something's wrong, in my opinion, or my interpretation of it, is there something wrong with the test itself. This just goes through again to see that when you get to level 4, you're talking about 1.8% of the district, or only 5% of the state is actually passing this test. So again, I know everybody says you worry about yourself, you don't worry about somebody else's kids. But again, when you're looking at this holistically, we're on par with what's going on with the state. So we now need to collectively work with, and this has been brought up at my curriculum consortium meetings, like there's a call for action now with what's going on with this science assessment. Another thing is, this science assessment is mandated in grades 5, 8, and 11, but unlike our math and language arts, which is a little more high stakes because it goes towards your graduation proficiency, science does not. And I feel there's, like, sometimes word gets out, like it's not, they know that when they're looking at their graduation pathway, the science test isn't on there. So do we put as much faith and effort into it as a child? We may not. So these are all, again, these are all what our data team is kind of hypothesizing from the data. Our elementary schools are pretty consistent in where we are at compared to level 3 and 4 and 22 and 23. In grade 5, it is what it is. What I want to talk now is what are our notable achievements? What did all of this data that we've been sifting through tell us? It told us that we continue to outperform the state in the majority of the tested areas. We've seen tremendous growth from the early morning support at Washington School. That, I mean, the data doesn't lie in that one. We have a consistent shift towards that 4 and 5. So those 2 slides where I kept saying, look at that last column where we have a lot of green, that we are consistently moving in the right direction. And that our cohort data particularly showed growth when compared year to year. So when we dug deeper and we followed our 3rd and 4th graders or our 4th to 5th graders, we're seeing growth. And that's what the teachers now are working with. How do we move a 720 to a 725 to a 730 and eventually get them to proficiency? But we need to continue to intervene and figure out, we do have a percentage of students that aren't doing well. We have the continuation of our multisensory reading program that is definitely showing our shift in the language arts. That early phonemic awareness, if we solidify that with our tier 2 and tier 3 students, that's going to see gains later on, because until you can read, you can't comprehend, and the test is a lot of comprehension and understanding. We were running into the problems, especially post-COVID, of that lack of just basic sounding out, how to get your words, how to get your sounds, how to get your blends. So that program has been going great. We recently adopted this year a new ELA program, Wonders, which is a very structured program, and we have K-12 curriculum revisions. That is all in support of moving towards those 4s and 5s. We're working towards the standard, doing explicit instruction with meeting those standards, and now taking it a step further to make sure we test for those standards. And not to teach to the test, but to make sure that we're assessing the standard, not what we think the standard is. So we're taking a standard, if that's citing textual evidence from nonfiction, then we're assessing kids on that standards. And our discussion in the future is going to be moving our K-5s to that standards-based report card, which again will only help this flow. We have targeted support in K-12 within and beyond the school day. That's with our BSI, our labs, with our ESSER funds that we're going to be offering before and after school help, our multisensory reading. We have the supports right now. We have to figure out how to continue them and how to really, the great thing at our elementary and our middle is we're cycling. If a kid's doing well, we're taking them out and we're replacing them with that next kid on the list so that we can constantly move and get to as many kids. What we've done is I've allowed time for vertical articulation. And our supervisors of humanities and math are working with teachers K-12 to make sure of that natural progression, that we're appropriately teaching the standards at the different levels. And we have our NJTSS data teams, and what they're doing is really assisting me in digging deep into the data, especially in math, because that's been our area of concern, and that's been our area that now we're starting to finally see growth. It only took me 6 years, guys, don't worry. But we're getting there. Dynamic learning maps. So we're not going to report on individual data, like I said, because none of our grade levels have more than 10 students. But just to give you some numbers, is in grade 3, we had 6 students take the DLM, grade 4, 4 students, grade 5, 3 students. You can, 6 and 7 each had 1 student, 8, 3 students, and 11, 1 student. So we have a very small subset of students taking this. Those are mostly our STEPS and ARCH students, and our teachers work with them day in and day out to collect data and do what you call testlets to really work with them to get them moving along. And what that's doing is that's working at their level. The testlets are individualized to their level, and it's looking for growth. It's more of a growth model assessment based on different targets, based on different surveys, and we share that data with our CST and the teams, and what they do is they start to use that for goals and objectives, really looking deeper into things. As for access for Ls, just for comparison, you've heard me say a lot of times our numbers are increasing. Last year we tested, 2022 we tested 71 students. We are now up to testing in 2023 97 students, and when we just did our October snapshot for this year, we're over 100 in our multilingual learners right now. So that is an area that we are growing in, and we need support. What you can see is that 8 students exited the program, meaning 8 of the 97 students scored a 4.5 or beyond, so automatically were exited over the summer. Any student that scored between a 4.0 and a 4.4 are in the processes 30 days into the school year. They get to partake in the WIDA model, and if they succeed in that, they can exit. We were able to exit another 7 students from that because they were close. We know they're close. You give them a summer of growth, you give them a month of instruction, and we continue to exit them. The only grade bands where we had more than 10 students, 10 or more students testing, we actually had 10 in all of those grade bands. I will give you the data on in kindergarten. 0 of the 10 students got a 4 or higher. That's expected. This is their first schooling. They're coming in with no language acquisition skills. If they're identified as a kindergarten as a multilingual learner, most likely they're not very proficient in the language. So that does not surprise us. In 2nd grade, we had 4 of our students getting 4.0 or higher. So some of those students could have been the ones that I talked about exiting in the WIDA model. 3rd grade, we had 2. 11th grade, we had 1. So we're making gains. Some of the things that we've done for this is we restructured our ESL program, and we partnered with Wonders and their supports to really tailor and match what the student is doing in the language arts classroom during their 2 periods K-5 of pull-out ESL support. One is their English period and one is their ESL support period. In the middle school, we were fortunate enough to also use that model and work with one of our ESL teachers taking the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students and putting them into their own English class taught by the ESL teacher, and then they have an additional period of support. But what that does is it takes them out of the mainstream. They're using the same curriculum, but they're using it at their pace, so the modifications are right there. They're immersed in all of their other classes to be in that English environment, but in language arts, we feel that that's an environment. How do you put them in the regular classroom when they don't speak the language? So we put them in the regular classroom in the other content areas. And at the high school, we're continuing with our support periods from our ESL teachers. We trained, I believe if my number was correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Morale, I believe it was 38 teachers last year in the SIOP model. We are continuing to do another cohort of teachers in that, and basically the SIOP or sheltered instruction model is how does that secondary content specialist work with the multilingual learners in their classroom. And that's all I have for you. I told you real quick.
Thank you, Dr. Madonna. That was
There's a lot.
I did see you stuck in a couple of pink stars and pink arrows. I saw the
I
flash.
had to. You know me, guys.
I really enjoyed
I showed Rick and I was like, this is not me.
Thank you very much. And also something that we touched on last month, unrelated but is related, is that the resurgence of our supervisors.
Yes.
That is another layer
Huge. Within an
that
unnoticed.
really helps to just focus on the interventions, the curricula, aligning to the test, and without them, you know, I'm not sure we would have seen this level of support. And to Dr. Jabona herself. Again, those 3 positions were eliminated at points, you know, over the last decade and then brought back, and we, you know, trying to come back, to overcome that. I feel like we're finally in a place to see continued progress forward. So thank you for all of your work.
Questions?
Yeah.
Hi.
You look
Sorry.
right.
It's me.
Good.
So in your analysis of the data, and you may have done this already, or if not, I'm making a suggestion. When you're looking at the ELA data, if you mentioned those students who just are on the cusp of passing, either getting a level 4. Have you looked at how they did with their writing? So students can have an option, well, all students do the research simulation task, and then they have the option of either having the literary analysis or the narrative writing.
So that's what our school level teams are doing now, in our RTI teams. They're looking to say, first they did the evidence statement analysis to link it to standards, and then they're looking at the comparison to see, did more students get one versus the other, and did they succeed better on one versus the other when you pull out the actual individual raw data? I don't have that answer yet.
Okay.
That was started on the October 9th PD with our teachers. We're following up with some of that on the November 7th PD. But to your point, that's a huge point. What Dr. Morrell is saying is there's 3 types of writing assignments, but they only get assessed on 2. So we need to see, and
We all don't get the same. So if Mr. Carr and I are students in the classroom, we both will receive a writing prompt that's research simulation task. But I will get something, a narrative prompt, he will get literary analysis, a totally different writing prompt.
and a totally different style of instruction.
Correct, and style of how you write. So in looking at that, you can identify, well, is narrative the issue? Is it literary analysis or research simulation?
Right.
The other part could be that you have some students who do nothing and have a 0. And so for a student who's on the cusp, even if they have written something,
Correct.
could have easily have gotten them over that. And so that's another question about either stamina, making sure that teachers are walking around and kids are not clicking through, or the fact that just how we go about even teaching how to answer these prompts.
So
because it's not a natural way of writing.
One of the things that we're hoping to see gains is in our analysis in the old ELA program when we strictly did Readers Writers Workshop, there was a disconnect between the readers part and the writers part. One of the reasons we took the Wonders program is the reading that they do in their overview matches the writing. So when they're working on their read-alouds or their short stories, their writing prompts are related to that. So it's being more connected rather than I'm reading a story about myths and I have to write about the President of the United States. So I'm doing all of this within a 120-minute block. So that we're hoping that that's one of the things that might.
So you're in the process.
We're in the process of. That's with our new program that we're hoping we see gains in the writing part of. In deeper analysis, we also saw that vocabulary was an issue, and we feel that again with the Readers Writers Workshop, we used to supplement with like Words Their Way or one of those offset programs, which again was disconnected from what the curriculum was. This is all now one package deal. That's why you, as a board, let me pick that package last year, and I thank you again for it, is because it gives us the vocabulary, it gives us the phonics, it gives us the reading, it gives us the writing in one area, and the teachers are continually being trained on that.
The 8th grade students who take the algebra test,
Yes.
what is the district practice if a student does not pass the test? That those students are allowed to take geometry?
Currently our district practice is they are allowed to take geometry. We are normally talking at a subset, our number is about 25 students taking the Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and on average we have only about 1 not passing.
Okay.
So it's a very small,
To me,
yes.
that's a concern, right? So
Correct.
if you have a student getting all A's and scores are 1 or 2 in an algebra, then that's a larger conversation about A, our instruction and our grading, and 2, whether or not they took it serious, and I don't know, but I think sometimes there's something to be said of a carrot or a stick. You're in this course because we think you are high achieving and you must maintain a certain level of requirements before to move on.
So what we're looking at is to implement for the 24-25 school year, is that the next one, right? is an option 2 for those students who take the 8th grade. Part of that would be they would have to pass the NJSLA if it is still offered. Option 2 meaning since they are taking a high school course, they can obtain credit. They won't obtain math credit, but they can obtain elective credit in 8th grade already for not only achieving an 80 or above as a final average, but achieving a 4 or 5 on the NJSLA. So again, our push also is to try to get more students into that Algebra 1 in 8th grade.
I think this is a larger, my daughter's in it this year, I do think this
I
year.
believe we have 2 sections.
There are 2 sections.
We have 2 sections
So I
this year.
think this year will
I've
be a
been
good
saying
test
that,
to
yes.
it, because it's a larger than normal
So
section.
next year, that will be a huge discussion, is what's gonna happen. We do have a larger population if they don't pass that.
And then the last question, sorry for monopolizing the question time. Just really concerned about our special education.
Yes.
I saw some zeros. We had no students
Yes.
meeting proficiency. And again, I don't know what that looks like in our classes, especially our resource room pull-out classes regarding, the instruction, the PD, the alignment to that, or even just how are they being exposed.
So,
I'm not saying teach to the test.
no,
But if a test is having 2 components and I have to justify that, I can do that in my class. those
I can
same
tell you
activities.
exactly where we're going wrong there, because
Okay.
Mr. Sarah and I actually sat down with the data. We started looking at the instruction. We started with elementary, and we held on one of our Mondays a meeting with just resource and LLD teachers specifically, because what's happening, and I know it's because our teachers have the biggest hearts. They want to teach the kids at the grade level they're at. Meaning, we have a 3rd grade special ed student who may be reading on a 1st grade level, and they want to give them the books on the 1st grade level to endure them and embrace them. But when you get to the test, the standard is on the 3rd grade level. So as they're succeeding on that 1st grade level in a 3rd grade class, we're not doing good things for them because we're not exposing them to what they want to. So what we're starting to do now is Mr. Sarah and I are actually doing planning meetings with grade level resource and LLD teams to help them scaffold how to give exposure at the grade level standard, and saying, if this is the standard, we could still use a lower text, but what are they asking within it? So the student can read the text that they can read, but we need to make sure we're assessing at that standard, looking for the skill that they're looking for. So that is exactly where our problem was, and we're starting to address that. We have not gotten to the middle school and high school yet, because we want to start with the lower, and then, it will filter itself up.
I'm assuming that same spirit applies to grade level report cards.
Yes, well, this is an area that I talked about with them, and it's exactly to that point. I said, guys, we're doing a disservice because you're giving a report card and you're telling the parent in the LLD that they're getting a 90, and I'm just giving a number, and then they come home and they get this report that I sent home with my name on it, and it says they got a 1, but how? They got a 90 all year in that. And there's a big disconnect, and I said this is why further our discussion, and we're really trying to work toward how we as a district move to that standards base, but we gotta start small. We gotta start where we can see the gains, and then we're gonna start spreading that out.
I can assure you, this is not unique to here.
Hawthorne.
I'm dealing with it on my own end, with my own special ed staff. It's very difficult to reconcile, excluding the DLM, where you truly
That's
can
the
teach
1%.
to whatever level
This is
they're on.
resource and LLD.
There's
These
no
are
other way.
Resource and LLD are taught on grade level standards. They're taught with the regular curriculum with modifications and adaptations. And like I said, it's because our teachers care and they want to embrace and love these kids that they don't want them to struggle. And it's hard. It's tough love. And Mr. Sarah and I are being the mom and dad saying, you gotta be tough love here. And you gotta be honest, because you're gonna wanna know honesty as a parent. You might not accept it right away, but if you let us be honest, we have a better way to get your kids where they need to go. Good.
Not only am I glad that we brought the position back, obviously, but that you've been in that position for the last 6 years. So
Yes.
thank you for
We
doing
still
it.
get pink stars.
Exactly.
All right, you guys know that if you have any other questions, you can shoot me an email, talk to Dr. Spirito. Anything, if you look through this more detailed than you want, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Tribona. And just a personal aside, I did have to email Dr. Tribona myself as a parent because we got a paper that said my son didn't take the test, and I was like freaking out.
He
thinking-
wasn't supposed to.
He wasn't
10th grade
supposed
did not have
There was
to
some
last year.
glitch in the, anyway, I was like, you're not gonna graduate. I mean, it was like a moment of terror in my home, and she was gracious enough to email me back immediately, which I did not expect. But there was a small cohort of students who maybe it was just him, I don't know.
No, we were able to, so it went out in a couple of shifts. So after your email, I also got, Mrs. Kaiser in the office had the same thing.
They are in the
then
same
we were
grade, so
able, when the mail came up next time, to pull the ones that didn't. So there was
I
only a
will
small beginning
happily
of
be
the
your
alphabet.
freak out guinea pig any day. I'm
Perfect.
happy that it was me, but
It's that portion of the alphabet got it, and we were able to pull back the rest. Literally, I was holding up mail going, oh, this is not testing, and throwing it out.
it was horrifying in my home for a few minutes, but thank you for your immediate response. Are there any other questions for Dr. Tribona? Okay. Curriculum and instruction, Dr. Morrell.
Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Curriculum and Instruction recommends the following resolution. CI 1 through CI 2 on page 4, CI 3 through CI 14 on page 5, and CI 15 on page 6. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Morrell, seconded by Mr. Shortway. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Erentrout,
Yes.
Dr. Morrell,
Yes.
Mr. Paluce,
Yes.
Mr. Shortway,
Yes.
Mr. Zotaro,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clivio,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Personnel, Ms. Erentrout.
Thank you, President. The following resolutions are pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools. P1 through P12 on page 6, P13 through P21 on page 7, P22 through P31 on page 8, P32 through P33 on page 9. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Erentrout, seconded by Mr. Totaro. Any discussion?
Abby, just one comment. I know that there are some new hires, so always like to welcome the new members to our team.
Thank you.
And I just continue to feel older and older when I start seeing my children's friends coming here to teach. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the depressing, but happy for them.
The circle of life.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Morrell,
Yes.
Mr. Paluce,
Yes.
Mr. Shortway,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clivio,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes.
Ms. Erentrout,
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Finance and Administration, Mr. Clavijo.
Thank you, Madam President. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Finance and Administration recommends the following resolutions on page 9, F1 and F2. On page 10, F3 to A2. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Clavijo, seconded by Mr. Carr. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Paluce,
Yes.
Mr. Shortway,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clivio,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes.
Ms. Erentrout,
Yes.
Dr. Morrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Claims, back to you, Ms. Erentrout.
Thank you, President. In accordance with NJAC 6A:23-2:11B, C3, and C4, I have reviewed the bills and it is recommended that the board approve the bill list for the month of October 2023.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Erentrout, seconded by Mr. Clavijo. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Shortway,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clivio,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle,
Yes.
Ms. Erentrout,
Yes.
Dr. Burrell,
Yes.
Mr. Paluce,
Yes.
Mrs. Goff.
Yes. Mr. Totaro, Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you, Madam President. Pursuant to the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Buildings and Grounds recommends the following resolutions. BG1 and BG2 on page 11, Continuing on to page 12, BG3, as it pertains to the roller hockey rink, we approve the resolution pending a favorable follow-up inspection. Continuing on to BG4 and BG5 on page 12, and continuing on to page 13, BG6 through BG7. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Totaro, seconded by Ms. Erentraut. Any discussion?
Question? BG2, just curious, what does the approval of bus evacuation mean?
So they do bus evacuation drills in all the schools.
Oh, it's a
Just
drill.
It's a drill that the
Okay.
kids run through at all the schools.
Okay.
Just to practice, it's like a fire drill, but we do it as a bus evacuation.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
required.
Dr. Sprito, I have a question on the same item. Have we previously pre-approved dates? There are two dates on here that haven't happened
Those are
yet.
coming, those are obviously upcoming.
Okay,
But
but if
yeah.
something were to happen and they weren't able to be held on, would we have to amend anything?
Yeah, we could reapprove them if for some reason they don't happen on those days, but
Okay.
typically,
So they're
we just-
anticipated?
We just, it's our buses fortunately, so we know that they're gonna be there and the kids just run through those at the schools.
I was just thinking of it as far as like a safety
Yep.
concern. Now that we're already-
It's done on our campus.
Okay.
It's right on, you do it right on site.
Okay,
on
just
site.
similar to your concern about like field,
Totally get what you're saying.
trip dates. I'm sorry, Mr. Totaro.
No,
I know that-
Madam President, I just wanted to, one other thing that I wanted to note in regards to BG3, as it pertains to the roller hockey rink. The reason for the note on the comment on the resolution is, just so the public is aware, there was a request by this board to have an approval by the Board of Recreation to ensure that the rink was safe. Subsequently, a meeting took place last Friday, was it?
That's right.
With the Board of Rec, the borough engineer, the borough, and Dr. Sprito. It was verified and reviewed. The borough engineer came back with recommendations to change approximately 27 of the boards. Those boards are being changed, and as a result, that is why there's a contingency, so that once those boards are changed, we can pursue the approval process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Totaro. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavio?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Dr. Morrell?
Yes.
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Shortman?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Dr. Morrell, policy.
Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Policy recommends the following resolutions. PL1, which is on page 14, it's a first reading of the following policies.
Second.
Yeah. Are you motioning to second it?
A motion. Second.
Okay, so moved by Dr. Morrell, seconded by Mr. Totaro. That was a bit of a flub, sorry on my part. Any discussion?
Yes, I wanted to bring to the board's attention three things, as well as the public. If you're on page 14, if you look at P, which stands for policy, 3324, sorry, and P policy 4324, which is related to the right of privacy. I wanted the board members to know that this is the first reading. The 3324 is related to teaching staff, 4324 is related to supporting staff. The revisions from Strauss-Esme relates to that staff members have a right to a privacy when they are teaching in the classroom, meaning that a student shouldn't be recording them or video recording them or audio recording them without the express permission of that individual's direct supervisor, whether that's a principal or a supervisor. So this board felt that there was a need to protect the privacy of our teachers in class. Barring that you're not in a public setting, like now in a public meeting presenting, you don't necessarily have that right to privacy, but in your classroom, you do have that right to privacy. So I wanted the board to know that when we go to the second reading to discuss that if you wanted to further. The other thing I wanted to point out to the board, which is going to be a change, is Policy and Regulation 5111, which is eligibility of resident and non-resident students. I say a little bit unfortunately by this. So there is a law that was recently passed, signed into law this school year. And typically the board, our previous policy allowed the board discretion should a student move out of the district, depending upon when you moved, when you left, you were allowed to finish out the school year here without having to pay tuition. This law has since passed, we no longer have that discretion. So if you, and that's sad to me, especially if you're a senior, that if your family moves and you haven't finished out your senior year, that for you to continue to remain to attend Hawthorne Public Schools, you have to pay tuition. That's really out of our hands, that's a law, and it's just unfortunate, but I wanted the board members to know that is a change, that this law took our board discretion away from that. So I just wanted the public to know that when this is passed, my recommendation to the superintendent would be to consider making people know that. I don't know, that means they might not report that they moved, but at least it doesn't come as a shock, because it's been such a long-term practice that if you were here, you were allowed to finish the year, without recourse or anything like that, and now that has changed, and that's really out of our hands.
What's the spirit behind the change?
So I actually was speaking with Dr. Spirito about it. I had Mr. Fogarty made a legal presentation to the Bergen County administrators last week, and he himself shared they're trying to find, like, always there's a case, like something happened somewhere to cause for law, and we haven't really found where the underlying cause of that was. There is a concern that there was a discrepancy in terms of tuition being charged. So right now, your tuition has to be approved by the county superintendent based on this law. So what districts were doing, I'm assuming, based on this, was that, okay, well, because you might have financial difficulties, so I might give you a lower tuition rate compared to another family, so there wasn't consistency about the tuition. That's about the extent that Mr. Fogarty felt that might have caused a concern somewhere in the state, and now this law was passed. But that's just, disheartening, I think, especially when you're a senior, you want to finish out the year here. That's not to say that they can't, but for some families, that might be a financial burden that they won't be able to do.
Dr. Morel, is there a specific tuition that you must charge?
Yes, that's calculated.
The certified rate.
Yeah, we approve it annually. I did maybe in January.
Yeah.
I think we approve it every January.
Is it 12, 14?
I think it's 14. There's a couple on here.
Yes, okay, so it's about $14,000.
I mean, and then there's extras depending on your level of services if you receive any.
But I'm assuming that would be either way, be prorated if I'm here for a month or 2 months. I'm not.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you're saying we're voting on that, but is that dictated by the state?
No. It has to be approved by the
No, are
county.
you talking about the tuition rate? Oh, that's a Janine question.
Yeah.
The tuition rate to use is the state certified rate that comes out after our audit is completed.
Okay.
So we usually get the rate, so this January, February timeframe, we'll get the rates that it should have been for 22, 23.
Okay.
So we'll use those going forward into the following year, the 24,
So they're
25.
calculating some type of an average.
Yeah.
In other words, we couldn't be creative and just have like a ridiculously
No.
cheap number because we want to do the right thing. But the state doesn't allow us to do the right thing.
And Dr. Morel, some of the policies are optional. I'm assuming this is a mandated policy.
That's he's mandated. That was my discussion. Sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Morel. Any other discussion on policy? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clavio?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Dr. Morel?
Yes.
Mr. Palouse?
Yes.
Mr. Shortway?
Yes.
Mrs. Notaro?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes. Committee and liaison reports. Start with you, Mr. Carr, legislative.
Thank you, Madam President. On September 23rd, 2023, Governor Murphy signed into law S-2902, which revives statutory requirements enacted in 2007 for ticket prices at postseason interscholastic athletic events. The newly signed law essentially prohibits associations that oversee statewide interscholastic sports from increasing ticket prices for playoff games compared to regular season games, unless the increased prices are required to offset event-related expenses, including but not limited to rental, staffing, security, or insurance costs. In addition, the new law provides that for playoff games that are held at public school, any such adult ticket price increase is limited to 300% of the cost of a regular season adult ticket charged for a comparable event at the same school district. The Athletic Association must offer discounted prices on student tickets for playoff games due to economic hardship, as determined by the student school principal. The Athletic Association may provide discounted ticket prices for other groups as deemed necessary by the association, in consultation with the school district where the playoff game is held, and the association must file playoff game ticket prices with the NJ Department of Education at least 60 days before the scheduled playoff game, although the association will be able to subsequently file adjusted playoff game ticket prices with the commission no later than 30 days prior to the scheduled playoff game. This measure went into effect immediately upon the governor's signature. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Mr. Clavijo, both Finance and Administration as well as Passaic County School Boards.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll start with PCSBA. Last month's meeting was very informative. It included updates on several fronts. The main topic was a presentation of finances with mostly BAs on the panel. Topics discussed included the funding formula and the challenges being experienced. For the most part, we all share the common pain points. The next meeting is a hybrid meeting scheduled for November 30th to be held at Patterson's Charter School for Science and Technology. I strongly encourage my fellow board members to make it out to at least the hybrid portion. The evening will include MJSBA's 3 R's, which are roles, responsibilities, and resources. There's also training for newly elected board members at 5:30, dinners at 6 p.m., and the hybrid meeting goes live at 6:45. The main topic will be school safety and security. The legislative update included the makeups of the different districts, the details shared by them on the district we are part of. The 40th legislative district is as follows. It's made up of counties Bergen 23%, 28% Essex, and 49% Passaic. The incumbents are Senator Kristen Corrado, Assemblyman Krista Phillips, Assemblyman Kevin Rooney. The municipalities include Franklin Lakes, Ridgewood, Wyckoff in Bergen County, Caldwell, Cedar Grove, Essex Falls, Fairfield, North Caldwell, Verona, Hawthorne, Little Falls, Totowa, Wayne, and Woodland Park. The ads were Caldwell, Essex Falls, Fairfield, Hawthorne, North Caldwell, Verona, West Caldwell. They also mentioned that they were going to start doing tours with the legislators, which I thought was a great idea. So again, just want to encourage us to be part of the at least the hybrid portion of the meeting. On to finance. Ms. Murray shared the 2024-2025 preliminary budget calendar. The process will begin next month. Also on the agenda, we approve resolutions for emergency funds for the high school repairs. Also on the agenda, we approve the resolution to withdraw the funds for the purchase of the new building. Some figures that are relevant to the topic. We are currently renting the space that the board offices occupy for $20,000 a year. That lease has since expired. I think it expired last year, so that lease would have to be renewed and renegotiated. The board has 2 main reserve accounts. One is the capital account, and the other one is the maintenance account. The maintenance account has a $2.5 million balance. The capital account, after we withdraw $750,000 from it, it's going to have a balance of $1.6 million. The $750,000 that we approved for the resolution is going to include the $650 for the purchase of the building, plus associated costs. Those include inspections, paving, fiber installation, fire alarm system upgrades, etc. Some things to keep in mind, besides the rent that we're currently paying, is that the funds that we hold, both capital and maintenance, they sit on a bank account that pays interest of 1.4%. Right, so those funds are sitting in an account that pays us interest of 1.4% in interest. Inflation has come down. It's been as high as 7% back in 2021. It's currently at 3.7%. But if you do the math, you subtract the 3.7 minus the 1.4, those funds sitting in that account are still losing. It's still being eroded by 2.3%. On the other hand, commercial real estate returns are estimated to be between 6 and 12% annually. According to Penn Mutual Asset Management, commercial real estate property prices increased 24% over the past 3 years and 46% over the last 5 years. Now, so in conclusion, not only do we stop paying rent and lose money via inflation, but we start building equity to the tune of at least 6%. And worst case scenario, we can always repurpose the building, rent it out, or outright sell it. Based on this data, we feel that the acquisition of this asset is a wise use of the tax funds that are entrusted to us. And that concludes my reports.
Thank you, Mr. Clavijo. Ms. Erin Trout, Council Liaison.
Thank you, Abby. There are 4 upcoming events that I would like to share that the mayor had mentioned. This Thursday, October 19th, the Hawthorne Towncast is hosting a movie night regarding volunteer firefighters. It's called Odd Hours, No Pay, Cool Hat at the movie theater, again, this Thursday, 7:30 to 9:30. On Sunday, October 22nd, the Hawthorne Green Team is having a fall bird walk at 9 a.m. Saturday, October 28th, the Hawthorne Fire Department is hosting our annual trunk or treat from 6 to 8 p.m. And Monday, October 30th, the mayor is having his Halloween parade at 7 p.m. at Roosevelt. So we've had a lot of events that have recently passed, and those are the new ones coming up. So.
Thank you, Ms. Erin Trout. For New Jersey School Boards Association, there are just 3 things I'd like to share. First of all, I know we have some members that will be attending the workshop, which will be the 23rd to the 26th. Sadly, I will not be able to join you, but please gather some pens and highlighters for me. I do love swag. The next thing is the steam tank. The NJSBA steam tank theme has been announced. This is something that we have participated in the past and has favorably been awarded some honorable mentions. This year's theme is Spark Innovation, and the submission is due by December 11th, so I'm hopeful that we will participate again. And lastly, I would just like to congratulate our neighboring Manchester School Board on their board certification award. So they were awarded board certification status as a full board for the number of credits that they received through trainings, which is something we've discussed in the past, but with our lapse in having a rep. In any event, I just want to congratulate them as they are our neighbors and we have collaborated with them in the past and certain things. That is all for me. And my monthly, please get your governance training in. Okay, I said it. Dr. Morell, policy and curriculum instruction.
Okay, so the policy committee met. We specifically discussed the policy and regulation 1642.01 regarding sick leave. This was a law that was passed again recently this year, that went into effect, I should say, this year, regarding the type of sick leave or days that our staff can take. There has been a change in that process in terms of what has previously been done in the past, in terms of providing documentation or permission for that. So we reviewed the options that were in the policy. So we're still asking that if a staff member sees a foreseeable sickness, to at least provide us with a notification about that. Again, assuming it's foreseeable. Obviously, you wake up sick, you don't know that was foreseeable. But if you know that you're going to take off, we are requiring documentation for that. We are also allowed to the policy, as per the law, I should say. We are allowed to identify what we call blackout days, days that staff members should not be able to take a foreseeable sickness or personal day or whatever that might be. So that was our policy that we did there, and then we also discussed the right of privacy and the eligibility of resident non-residents. This was all related to the Strauss-Esme policy alert that of course guides our policy and regulations. Policy Alert 231, which came out in September 2023. And a lot of the policies were also telling us to abolish them because they were no longer relevant, which is what you saw there on the board agenda today. C&I, we updated a complaint form as it relates to policy 9130, which is a public complaint and grievance. So if there's anything that the public has some concerns about our curriculum and instruction or materials, we updated, so to speak, it's a 21st century because it's a Google form now, probably a written form, it's easier to do that. Dr. Tribona referenced the elementary NJSLA prep program that was very successful at the 3 to 5 level at Washington, and the now looking forward to replicate that program in all of our schools. Something else that was highlighted is the professional learning communities. That is professional development for our staff, and it's related on different topics that is of an interest to that staff, and the teachers have really taken it upon themselves as teacher leaders and supporting each other's learning throughout the course of the year and meeting in these PLC meetings. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Morel. Mr. Palouse, have CPAC and PTO.
Thank you, Madam President. Start with Roosevelt School. This coming Saturday, October 21st, there will be a trunk or treat from 12 to 3 p.m. It's on the blacktop behind the school. Tattoos, crafts, food and drinks, along with a photo booth. Admission's free, so feel free to join. Roosevelt is also offering Spooky Pies, which is a $13 DIY pizza kit, so you can order from now until the 20th. So you're running out of time, October 20th. You can pick them up on October 26th, so please consider ordering some kits. Again, $13 for pizza kits. It's fun for the whole family. So buy yourself some kits. CPAC, we ask you to please continue to save your caps and bring them into your schools for the pool tabs for the Ronald McDonald House. Helps us raise funds. Also, I have a correction. Last meeting, I announced that the 6th annual color run would be on a different date. My mistake. It's actually going to be on May 5th. So write that down in your calendars for the color run, 6th annual color run. There's also a previous survey that was sent out to families. The survey is now shut down for responses. CPAC will go through and tabulate the responses and then present it to the board so we can see that data. And then rounding up CPAC, their next meeting is going to be October 25th at 7 p.m. It's going to be hosting the BOE candidates. So if you want to listen to some platforms for the people that are running, feel free to join. But you do have to pre-register. So go on to CPAC and pre-register for that meeting. And then the Ed Foundation is still selling raffles for the basket of gift cards. It's $1,500 worth of gift cards, and it's just a $10 entry. So enter as many times as you want to win $1,500 worth of gift cards. The drawing will be December 13th, 7:30 p.m. at the high school, but winner does not have to be present. And then, as always, I just want to remind everybody that all these organizations need volunteers. So even if you can just give an hour here and there, please consider volunteering your time to help out everyone. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Palouse. Mr. Tosaro.
Thank you, Madam President. Buildings and Grounds Committee did not meet this month. However, we did receive a few updates from Joe Higgins on various items being performed throughout the school year. At Jefferson, the replacement bridge was installed on the playground at the Big Toy. Washington, along with a roof repair, the gutters, downspouts, and gutter guards were installed on a small roof over the gym foyer. At the high school, as a lot of people know, the brick facade replacement on Bamford Avenue and over the small parking lot have been completed. The next step is for the roofers to apply the flashing over the top of the bricks. And then Friday, the masons moved to the teachers' parking lot side of the building to begin the demo of the parapet wall. Also, Jefferson and Washington generators have been installed on the concrete pads at each school. They are working on the final connections. In addition, generators at Roosevelt, LMS, and the high school will be installed in the coming weeks, and then we'll share more information about the completion of those as well. And lastly, we continue to secure quotes for the work at the new board office, as alluded to in some of the other reports. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Sotaro. At this time, we will hear from the public. Please remember to keep your comments to 5 minutes in duration. Mr. Costello.
That's not good.
Who doesn't know your name?
Ed Costello, 300 Florence Ave, Hawthorne. I guess the contingency is the one that got me, and I'm just trying to figure out what that means. Who's putting the boards?
So the letter that we received from the mayor stated that Mr. Houston would be purchasing and securing the new boards.
Did they have a final date on that or any?
They do not. The work is being performed by Barry Houston as soon as we have the new boards. That's all the letter says.
All right.
Sure, go ahead.
So I can just add that the mayor, I spoke to the mayor today, because I was part of that meeting last week. According to the mayor, Barry Houston is personally
He
going
does
to.
everything, let's be honest.
What's that?
He does everything.
Right, so he was personally going to pick them up himself, and he told me he was gonna be installing them like this week. Obviously, he's trying to get it done as soon as possible, but I would communicate with him, because I mean, that's what he shared, that's what the mayor shared with me today when we stopped up.
He'll yell at me as soon as I'm done with this, that's all right. Just another thing, and I know there's been with the lease and everything like that. We consistently clean the rink, and I know Barry wants to continue doing that. But how about the garbage cans that are in there? Is there a way that we can get somebody to dump those garbage cans once in a while?
I mean, to be honest, it's really the town, what we were told is that the town was gonna take care of that. That it's not, that it's, it's they're responsible for the rink, they're doing the repairs. We were told that they were gonna take care of it, I know they don't. But, I mean, that was communicated to us. I mean, I could speak to the mayor about it, just to make sure that DPW runs by there periodically to dump them.
All right. You don't mind doing that?
I can speak to the mayor, no,
Thanks.
I'm happy to do it. I mean,
And just one more thing, and I saw the thing about going down, dropping off. We do have some physically, you understand
Totally
that, we've
understand.
always just let them down, and they literally have to park there, because they can't walk that far.
And we do the same at our athletic events,
Right.
of course, and we totally understand. But what happens is, I think the challenge that we face is sometimes people who don't need that accommodation take advantage, and now we have 1 million cars down there, we have kids.
Right.
As you know, we have wrestlers who wrestle
Yeah,
in the
well,
den,
we're always
walking
nervous
out
about
of
the
there.
wrestlers, but we
So,
like keeping our lights on, so the people who walk and wrestlers can get up.
Yeah,
So that's what we try to do.
that's our biggest concern. Obviously, if people need an accommodation, we're happy to allow for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
You don't
Costello.
have to listen to me anymore.
Oh, stop.
They're always welcome.
Ms. Willis.
Hi, Catherine Willits, 159 Parker Avenue. And I'm sure everybody knows what I'm gonna talk about. On Friday, I removed my 6th grader from Lincoln Middle School to be homeschooled. This was in response to a series of escalating events.
Ms. Willis, I just want to make sure you're aware this is being recorded and televised. Okay.
Thank you. Series of escalating events of verbal and online harassment over more than a year. The hurtful, degrading slurs, pictures, and insults were bad enough. The lengths the administration went to avoid responsibility was 1,000,000 times worse. We were first told that an incident could not be a HIB because it took place at leadership camp. This was sponsored by the police department, not LMS. Then the anti-bullying specialist determined this was mutual and the students were equally involved in social conflict. My son finally made a comment about the other students' appearance after a year of being targeted with things like, "Consider suicide, you autistic F word," sending him photos of male genitalia, using disgusting slurs, posting that he was engaged in specific acts with some of his friends, and telling other students he hadn't met yet to avoid being friends with them. However, this was determined to be mutual. Once the students learned that this was unfounded and it was decided that they did this to each other, the abuse escalated exponentially. I appealed this. I received a response, Dr. Spirito, that it could not be a hit because my son wasn't being affected by it anymore. The same guidance counselors who determined both students were equally involved asked him how he was doing, and surprisingly, he said he was fine. He had good grades and good behavior, so he must have been fine. He loved his teachers, by the way, every one of them. They were all amazing. I kept believing that if we were able to show the reality of this situation, common sense would eventually prevail and lead to recognition of what was actually happening. I asked for this to be addressed on behalf of my son in good faith. I asked that the child who instigated this receive the help he clearly needed. I continued to remind my son and his friends not to retaliate against this child, his family, and his friends. And I kept explaining that we need to do the right thing even when others are still learning. I kept wondering what was being overlooked and what we were missing. It wasn't passing the common sense test, and as it turns out, nothing. My son will not be returning to LMS, so whatever follows this will not be affecting him. Someone needs to look into what is happening at that school. Teachers told the class that substitutes are shadowing them because they haven't been fingerprinted yet. Students are selling drugs, vaping, having sex in the bathrooms, and in empty classrooms. Last year, students were beaten in the basement, went missing for extended periods of time. This year, a student in a class imitated a sexual activity with himself while moaning and leering at a teacher. Boys are changing their clothes for gym, and there's a known existing problem of them pulling each other's pants down. It's on video, open public records. It's no wonder they can't recognize bullying at Lincoln Middle School. It's standard operating procedure. As of now, no one has been able to tell me whether or not this was bullying. The excuses are getting exceptionally more creative. I attended a meeting on the 11th, and someone took notes by hand because you can't record me without my knowledge and then use that against my child. I asked for the minutes of the meeting that was recorded word for word, and I was told that, well, nobody can really tell me whether this was just unofficial notes or actual minutes. If they were actual minutes, I have a right to a copy. The reason I'm given is that other students' names were mentioned in it. The same names of the other students that were said in front of me in my own notes during the meeting. Common sense test. This is no longer anything that will affect my son, but there are 400 other students in that school. There's a reason why I'm not able to keep pursuing this. And I realize it is not a lack of resources, legal education, time, or commitment on my part. Our family is limited by ethics, principles, and integrity in a way people without those things are not. How can I explain the importance of a conscience to someone who doesn't have one? Every one of you owes Evan an apology. You failed him, and you are failing all of the other children in that building. But he had enough strength and courage to show up here and look you in the eye. And he stood up for himself and all his friends who were still there. I am beyond proud to have him as my son.
While I cannot and will not comment on accusations made this evening, I can share that this board made a special meeting to accommodate a meeting with you, Mrs. Willits, and your family, and that appeal decision has been discussed as a board, and you do not know it yet. So
I do not know it. I have not
the
been
public
informed.
also needs to know that there was an appeal meeting that has not been formally shared with you. Are there any other public comments?
name is Mallory Delicia, 52 Elberon Avenue, Hawthorne. I just have a general question based on HIV. I am new to that whole system. I've never been aware of it at all. My daughter was hit with an HIV. I want to know what the process is as far as suspension, reporting it. What is the time frame supposed to be with all of that for when a HIV is reported somewhere?
So when a HIB is reported, the school has a period of time to begin that investigation. I believe it's a 5-day, and I can give you the exact timeline. I don't want to misspeak, but I can provide you with the exact timeline for each step of this process.
Okay.
But basically, they have I believe it's 5 days to begin that investigation. Excuse me, I think it's 2 days to begin that investigation, and then they have within 10 days to report that to my office. So they do a full investigation. They determine the outcome of that investigation. They can impose discipline based on their findings, based on their investigation. And then what happens is once that investigation is complete, it is reported to me. We have a program called Hipster. That investigation with all the documentation is sent to my office. Basically, I acknowledge that I review it. I look in terms of the process of the investigation. It is then my responsibility as the superintendent to report it to the Board of Education in private session at the subsequent meeting. The next meeting that the board has, that situation is reported to the board. Once it's reported to the board, then parents get a letter explaining that your child was involved in an HIV and whether it was or was not deemed HIV. The parents then have a right to appeal that decision. And then they can request an appeal. That appeal then would happen with the board, and again, in private session. That's part of the HIV law. That's required. It's in private session to protect the privacy rights of everyone involved.
That's 60 days you have.
Yeah, you have the right to appeal it. Then the board has to, if you appeal it, the board would hear that appeal in private session, and then the board would make a decision and communicate that decision to you. So again, there's a lot of steps to this.
Okay.
And again, I can give you exact timelines. I can write it out for you. I know I shared the policy with you.
Policy, and I've read through it
It
briefly.
lays it out in the policy.
Okay, now, my next question would be, as far as discipline, okay? A HIB is presented, reported, discipline, say a suspension. That's okay to be that same day or the next day without even the investigation happening, and there was no violence, well, there was no violence involved,
So-
as far as what the teacher said.
So the discipline is based on our code of conduct. Our code of conduct plays a role regardless of HIV or not, right? So we have a code of conduct in each school. In the high school, it's in the student handbook. There's this very explicit code of conduct, middle school as well. So when there are any kind of discipline matters, whether it's an HIV or not an HIV, regardless, they follow that code of conduct. And they impose discipline.
For all parties,
For all
correct?
parties,
Okay.
they impose discipline based on the circumstances, what they determine through their investigation, but that's done at the school level based on that code of conduct. So I think that answers your question, I'm not sure.
To an extent. I know we have our meeting coming up. I did request for an adjournment. As far as discipline, like I'm saying, I was sent video of a video that's going around an incident that happened with my daughter in the school. My daughter and 2 other kids are the only ones that got suspended and HIBs against them, and the aggressor did not. So that's where I'm kind of very
I'm
confused.
gonna be honest with you, I can't discuss other students
Just
and
in
the
general,
situation.
in general, that's why,
Right, so
you know.
here's what I can share, and I did share this with your husband as well. You as a parent, you have a right to file an HIV at any point.
At any point in time.
At any point, including now. There's no statute of limitations. You can still do that.
Okay.
I can walk you through that process as well. There's an anonymous link on our website, but you don't have to do it anonymously. You can do it at any point. You can still do that if you
Okay.
feel that there was.
Now, as far as the evidence I do have, how would I present that as well? Like, do I present that, do I send it in an email? How does that work?
You have to go through the school. When you
Okay.
submit the HIV report, you can include any evidence or any information that you have regarding that incident.
Okay, and everything is done fairly and as it's supposed to?
Yes.
Correct, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Spirit, I just wanted to add that on the district website, the landing page at the top, there's a link that says HIB information, and you can click on that. We're required by the law to provide who are the anti-bullying specialists at every school. We're required to provide our policy. We're required to provide information to parents, and we're required to provide the HIB reporting form. Again, if you go to the district website, right on the home page, at the top, there's the blue bar on top with headings, and it's the second to the last to the right. It says HIB information. You click on it, and then you'll see for each school in the district who are the anti-bullying specialists as well with the HIB reporting form.
I would like to kindly ask anyone who got up to speak to please, before they leave, just sign in. We did try and get as much identifying information as possible, but there is a sign-in sheet before you leave. General comments and questions from the, I'm sorry. So, okay, come on up.
Is that
Yes, we
okay?
have, yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Hi, Patty Pasquino, 51 McFarland Ave. I just trying to get some ideas as far as with the incident that happened at LMS, I guess about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago. And I know I was trying to come up with some ideas as far as it's very hard when those kids are playing on the playground at LMS. It's very much in the neighborhood. You know, you're walking by with your dog, kids are right there. The side gate is usually open on Kingston. And the things I'm saying, I don't know what's right, what's wrong. I'm just kind of pointing out a few things. So that side gate is always open. When the individual came back the second day, my daughter is in 7th grade, and they were all rushed into the cafeteria, lights off, get down, you know, and so it's pretty traumatizing. And so, like, basically, how can we not have like a prison type system, or not have a system where these kids, you know, if something happens and the police are approaching, they can't see what's happening on the playground, but is there some way to like semi-private the fencing with some ivy, like where you could still see the feet and the head? I don't know, just something to define it as, you know, I've seen people at pickup just walk through, and I was telling you this, Anthony, just walk through with their dog. They don't even have a kid there, and they're just crossing right through. LMS does not have enough staff. I'm sorry, it doesn't. When I've seen the fight happen that happened last year right in front of my eyes, and the staff, they're doing the best they can. There's just not enough people. You know, they have a staff person at the corner of Washington and Kingston for the crossing, a staff person at Hawthorne Ave and Kingston for the crossing. But as far as on the blacktop by the basketball court and that whole area, there's really nobody. And that's where the fight occurred last year. That's where I saw a fight almost occur the other day. It just, I don't know, they need more people. They're doing the best they can, they just don't have enough staff. And my kids too have said about the lack of substitutes, properly prepared substitutes, questionable things that have been said by the people who are in the classroom. And I love the school. There's so many great things happening there. But there's a lot of concerns that I just can't brush off anymore.
We would obviously encourage you to reach out to the administration if you haven't done so already. The PTO is a great place to start too with that idea of like the privacy. I know PTOs often get involved in like some of the aesthetic.
Thinking you could put maybe some screen on that fence. I'm just thinking as you're talking.
Yeah. Just something, even banners like school property, like get it through your head, people. You can't just like stroll through as kids are coming out of school. You don't even have kids there.
I'm not sure why you'd want to walk into that, but
dumping the dog poop in there in our disposable, you know, it's just stupid.
Yeah.
Some people are just ignorant, but there does need to be, I think, more bodies.
Okay.
Because it can only stretch so far.
And
And unfortunately, right, some of these concerns are, you know, not to make light of them, but they're, you know, countrywide, right? There's a teacher shortage.
Oh, yeah.
The substitute shortage is real. everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, my son's in 8th grade and, yeah. I mean, it's pandemic, you know,
Yeah,
pandemic,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
been the past 3 years, but, yeah.
And a building, something we can keep on the radar for buildings and grounds is the idea of some sort of
Yeah, I think that's a
privacy,
great idea.
latching or.
Yeah, and again, I'm sure the police would wanna be consulted first too, like what makes sense for them too, if they're approaching the school.
Right,
I don't wanna
do they
put
want
them
to
in
see- yeah.
a bad spot either, so. That's it.
Thank you.
Right, and God willing, we're gonna have that school resource officer coming up, right?
You said? You said? She did?
Yeah, she did sign
Thank
it.
you.
Right, it's worth,
Thank you.
it's worth mentioning about that school resource officer that we're potentially gonna be having.
Yes,
I mean, you know,
that
so.
would be primarily housed at Lincoln.
Hi, Eric Colby Golden, 236 Lafayette Avenue in Hawthorne. Dr. Trevano left, but I just wanted to make mention, I feel like I talk about this every year when we get those test results. As a parent of a child with an IEP, getting those results in the mail, I think I tell you guys this every year, I cry every year. I know that's not his capability. I know that it's state testing and he doesn't get modifications or adaptations. And so she made a comment about the teachers are so kind and they're giving them reading that they can read on versus the testing, which is grade level testing.
Yeah.
So I understand what she's saying, but I also kind of disagree because then we're gonna give them grade level testing in class that they can't read and make them feel bad.
Exposure, trying to expose them.
I know
more
what she meant, but
yeah.
it came off a little.
Yeah.
So they can't read the test to begin with. So mind you, these kids are in there for days, sitting taking a test that they don't understand, that many of our kids, as you saw from those scores, cannot read, and then they're asked to answer questions. Those are really hard days when our kids come home.
Yeah.
And we have a large special education population. We have a large LLD resource pull out, all these different wonderful programs we have, even some of our inclusion kids who can't read our grade level textbooks or the online programs we're using to begin with, but then state testing on top of it, where they would normally get extra, let's say extra time, I know I'm preaching to the choir, extra time in the classroom, and now it's like chop chop, you're done, time's up. So I know you guys know this already, but just to put that out there because state testing really isn't fair to our most vulnerable population when it comes to education.
Even the non-vulnerable population, I mean, there are many
I was always a
advocates-
bad test taker, and
Yeah.
I don't have an IEP, but it didn't matter. I would bomb them because I would get myself so anxious and worked up. So yes, absolutely.
Question for you, since you guys are living it with your son and you're in the education field, what suggestions, how does it get fixed? You know, what?
The state, we have to go to them. I mean, it's a federal requirement, Yeah. unfortunately, the
And
tests.
I was
Every
always
grade, it's
hoping
annoying. That, so for one of mine, like he's right on that line. So some of our students, some of our population don't have to take that test. Very small population, right? But the majority of our special ed students with 504s or IEPs do. And it's not always appropriate. And I think maybe that the state or someone could say, take their psychological testing, IQ testing, and say this population from, I don't know, IQ number, whatever, and lower, shouldn't have to take state testing, because it really, I mean, we're all about mental health. It is really horrible. It's like another language, and he knows you see all your friends answering, because you're not in your LLD class with your population that you're in all day long with. No, you're in the general population, and everyone's answering and jotting down notes or doing this math, doing the work, and you're not, because you don't know what's going on. And you haven't been taught those things because you are at a much lower grade level, so.
I would hope that, there are modifications that are afforded in the IEPs and the 504s. Parents can choose to not utilize those modifications.
Right.
You can say in the IEP that they want it, that the child's ed team is promoting a small group environment, but the parent does. So there are
Absolutely.
options and modifications that can be imposed. We don't.
But not for state testing.
Yes, for state testing.
That's,
Yes.
that's one of the
That's exactly what
accommodations,
they're for.
extended learning time?
Extended time, separate
There
environment.
were a
In
couple
math,
things
they're
I
allowed
asked for
to
that,
have a
and I don't
calculator?
remember, it could have been,
That is through IEP and a 504.
with the Chromebooks now and online, everything can be read to you. It could have been that there was a couple of things that were like, we can't do that, absolutely in the classroom, but not in state testing, and I understood why.
Yes.
I don't remember what it was,
Speech to text, because that requires a private room.
and vice versa. Well, they're allowed, or maybe the headphones, maybe that was it, I really
Yeah.
don't.
No, I hear
remember.
what you're saying. Not every accommodation can be utilized, but
Right.
there are many
There are-
that can.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, she's not here, but the ninth graders this year, do those teachers in the high school receive their testing scores?
Yes.
Oh, great,
Yes,
because
you
they're
get
not
you get
teaching for the next year.
Yeah, you get the
testing.
year below and the current year.
Okay, because I know it stops at 9, so I wasn't sure. It was really nice to see that we got students, I think, from out of district that are coming in district to pay to come here for once. Like, instead of us out, is that correct? It looks like a plus. It's not a plus?
It's,
Is it on that column or this column?
I mean, it's
There's a
just,
reason that they're coming out.
I understand that, but because we have such great programs and we are getting their money,
Yes.
their
True.
state, federal money to house them here. Yes? Instead of us paying everyone else, like you know who. So I thought that was awesome. And then the broadcasting teacher was approved and is in our high school, right, currently?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. I think that was it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
thank you, Ms. Johnson. Anyone else? I don't want to miss anyone. Okay. We're going to do board comments and on new business, old business, and general comments all at once. Just identify what information you are giving. And we'll start with Dr. Morrell, you're going to be looking at me and smiling and shaking your head, so we'll start over there.
So I have new business. I want to let the board know that I'm going to be doing a little bit of research. I want to let the board know that there's a move, that it's a growing trend in the athletic world for female athletes regarding tackling period anxiety, specifically having female athletes wear white shorts. There are many sports that have abandoned the white shorts. You can still wear a white shirt, but not the white shorts. So just for example, just recently we had the FIFA Women's World Cup that just expired, that just passed. That was the first time we had a majority of women soccer players not having white shorts on. The women's rugby team have swapped out their white shorts for different color shorts. In Wimbledon, which is a tennis tournament, which historically the athletes must wear white as part of their uniform, they have also relaxed those rules for their female athletes to wear more dark colored shorts rather than their all white outfits if those female athletes are menstruating. The WNBA is another association that has moved away from white shorts. I'm speaking both as a parent who has a personal investment in this for a student who plays soccer, and when they wear white shorts, that there is some anxiety when you're menstruating. I also think whether it's the quality of the white shirts we have, this has been a very rainy season, and well, you're wearing white, you're playing in the rain, and you might as well, it starts to see through. So I think I'm going to research and propose to the policy committee a policy that moving in the direction as many other professional female athlete leagues that I have recognized. I've already reached out to our athletic director, and I understand that we're required to have white on. But I would argue, and I'm going to do my research, that we can have a white shirt, but not white shorts. I also invite, if possible, to gather data from our female athletes regarding their opinion about this, because student voices is important to me, because if they think that this is useful to them to not have white shorts and not have to have period anxiety when they're on the field of play, whether that's on the basketball court, the tennis court, playing volleyball, whether it's track, whatever it is that we do. I know that this might be a taboo topic typically, but we should not shy away from a very normal biological thing that happens to women. And I think it's something to be mindful of regarding things that a person that menstruates has to worry about that other athletes don't have to worry about. So I wanted to present that idea out to the board, and I'm gonna do some research about that, but that's something I'll discuss further with my policy committee. But I just wanted to share that with you.
Dr. Morrell, thank you for bringing up, as you said, a biologically normal topic, but does seem to be taboo, and when you have a larger than normal crowd, I've always admired your willingness to embrace tougher topics, and this is a perfect example of you don't know what you don't know. I have an 8th grader, but I literally never thought about this until you brought it up, and I'm very happy that you did put it on the radar. I'm not sure if there's, policy is definitely a good idea, but if there's another committee you think that we can really know, like athletic committee, but you know, as you pass the torch, we will make sure that this is not falling off the radar.
Okay, thank you.
Any other old business or general comments, Dr. Morrell?
No.
Okay. Mr. Carr, anything?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Shortway?
Good.
Mr. Doyle?
Just a general comment. I wanted to acknowledge one of our own board members. There's a lot of stuff going on over here with Dr. Morrell. I wanted to acknowledge her for once again volunteering her free time. She volunteered to be our MC and announcer at the girls' varsity soccer games. It's been much appreciated by the fans and the parents, announcing before the games. She also volunteered to be the MC for the day in which we celebrated and acknowledged the breast cancer awareness. I know there were a lot of people there, friends, family, boys and girls soccer were there, even the other teams participated, and the people in the audience who were acknowledged were extremely grateful. It was a nice touch, my wife being one of them. So I just wanted to give you that acknowledgement and say thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
That's
Doyle?
all I have.
Mr. Gudiel?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of general comments. I want to start out with this week an article was shared with us. Topic was why there's no one running for the Board of Ed. A couple of the highlights from the article was that across New Jersey, voters in 94 municipalities will have to oppose without enough candidates. In total, nearly 18% of school boards in New Jersey have less candidates than open seats, and more than 8% of school boards have an open seat without any candidates from the election. Comments get made that it's obviously not good for schools and it's not good for our democracy. On that note, I want to obviously thank my fellow board members. It's a volunteer position. There's a lot of hours that get put into this that we take away from families' personal time. Also acknowledge our incumbents who are putting themselves out there once again, Mr. Carr and Mr. Palouse, and also for our other two candidates who are putting their name in the hat for a second time. So thank you for the interest in school board. Also, hockey, roller hockey. In last week's meeting, just want to again extend the appreciation for the constructive and respectful input from the community. For our newcomers, as you can see, we do take the time to listen. We are responsive. We're putting the time in. We don't have all those solutions, but the idea is that it's a community effort in which we try to elevate the situations and come up with a solution hopefully for everybody that's involved. Special shout out to Mr. Tankos for not only his presentation that night, but for following it up on social media with his positive and constructive message. Also want to recognize Barry Houston and the coaches for the passion and the dedication to the youth the league serves for close to 30 years. And last but not least, on behalf of the Hispanic Heritage Committee, I want to thank the contributions, those that participated, Dr. Spirito, our Mr. Duran from the high school, Ms. Gomez, the Spanish Club students, including our very own student rep, Ms. Counselor, the high school marching band who did a fantastic job, the Bear Cave and the high school store for making their swag available for sale. 100% of the sales from that day, which were over $500, were given right back to the high school and the Bear Cave.
Mr. Totaro.
Yes, thank you. General comment. Just want to state that I genuinely appreciate all the parents and community members that have come out tonight. I think sometimes we value that more than you probably recognize, and we genuinely appreciate when you do so. We are here to serve the community and the children. Most of us here are parents, and we advocate, just as you do for your kids, for our own. So I genuinely appreciate your time, and there's many topics that this board hears, and sometimes there's differences of opinion, but we genuinely appreciate your time. We appreciate what you do to advocate on behalf of your children, and we do our part to the best of our ability and what's presented to us. And sometimes that may not be based on our opinions, but based on law or policy, and that has to be taken into account. I just want everybody to be aware of that and recognized, and also just, again, my own personal sake, just state my appreciation for everybody coming out, because many times we have nobody, and most times we have nobody. And the reality is that we can't make impactful change without hearing your voices. So I do appreciate it.
Ms. Aaron. Great points, Marco. Very, very true. Echoing those comments. A few other quick general comments. Thank you, Bree, for mentioning the peer leaders in your report. I know that feels like it was hours ago, but it's been a long meeting, but that is a program that I was part of over 20 years ago, and I'm excited to see that it's still going strong. I remember when we had the county teen summit, we are usually here in our own town, but then when you get a chance to work with the other schools in the county, it's really exciting, and you do bring a lot back to the community here. Also wanted to congratulate the fall sports teams. I know Dr. Sprito mentioned the marching band. It's very exciting to see them winning. And lastly, a positive note about our athletes in our community. I recently have been spending time in other communities, and more than a handful of times people have mentioned about the sportsmanship of our athletes. And I was one of them years ago. I know we all have students, our children and students that are part of it, and it's just a really nice thing to hear about Hawthorne, that we're known not just for winning or having great teams, but having good character and good sportsmanship. So I wanted to share that with everyone. I've heard it a lot, so it's exciting about our district. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you. I have old new business, so it's going to be my normal soapbox where I'm going to jump up and start talking about PCTI. And my full disclaimer is that it has nothing to do with the education that's provided there. It has to do with funding and the not so level playing field. The fact that we have a 2% cap and they get as much money as they want. Imagine having two kids and you gave one $10 a week and the other one $100. Who do you think is going to be more successful or have more junk? Either way. But the point that I'm going to make to the board is I'm going to give Alice kudos for this one, because I think in one of my rants with our personal conversations, you suggested a Google Doc. So I want to put a Google Doc out just for us to add different comments, because each one of us has different things that we think of, right? So I'd like to gather as much information so that if I ever do make it to the next level of talking to the right people, I'd like to have everything, listed, all the complaints and issues that we have with the whole funding formula. And I'll just give you one quick example. Hawthorne wants to put in a new class, right? Something good that's going to be beneficial. We have to hire a teacher, buy supplies, figure out what we're going to actually do. It's a cost to the district. PCTI can come up with an idea and say, let's do a STEM building. We're going to get money from the state, $25 million, put a STEM building in there. The county who says, oh, we don't raise your taxes. We've only given $7 million of our taxpayer dollars to PCTI for the last, 10, 15 years. So they haven't increased their contribution. But what they did was they pushed the burden down to us, because when I first started, I want to say $600,000 came out of our budget and went up there. Now it's $2.2 million. So that's money we can't use. So going back to the idea of us having a cost to have a better program, they create a class, they generate enough interest that they accumulate actually more money, right? So they get 25 new students at $14,000 a pop. Not only did they pay for it, but they generate income. So they're a business and we're a public education. Yes, we're supposed to be on the same playing field, but we're not. So that's just one comment, and I'd like to share something with you guys, you know, every meeting if we could, because people have to realize that it's not the high school versus the high school. It's actually your kindergartner, your third grader, your seventh grader. When money comes out of our district and goes up there, that's less we have to work with. And if that continues to happen, and there's rumors of them using eminent domain.
They're building another building.
And they're building another building.
To accept another 800 students.
800 students, right? So throughout Passaic County, that's going to continue to funnel downward our public education. So just keep that in mind. It has nothing to do with us, you know, being disgruntled. I have family and friends that I know go up there, so I'll get phone calls tonight, but that's okay. We just have to be, you know, on the same team and realize that if we don't do something about this soon, public education in Passaic County is going to be nothing but PCTI, south, east, west, however they're going to call it. They're going to try to take over all of us, and they're going to dictate where our money goes. And I don't think that's best for Hawthorne or anybody else in Passaic County. So thank you for letting me on my soapbox. That's over tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Palouse, and that segues beautifully into, I attended the Hawthorne High School open house for 8th graders and any Lincoln Middle School students that wanted to attend. It was very lovely. It was run a little differently this year. They broke it up into different subject areas, and the supervisors ran some of it. Some of the teachers were involved. It was really lovely, and as I said before, anybody who walks into that building is inspired by what happens in that building. And I really hope that we can do something else in the spring, even just to get, I know there was a large portion of students who were unable to come because there were some athletic events that evening or other conflicts. We did do it earlier this year, I feel, which is great. But I would love to see something else happen. We're trying our hardest to get students in the play. We invited last year, I believe, the 5th graders from the elementary schools went to the play. So just getting them into the building to see what we have to offer. You come away with just a vibe that is hard to replicate. That also goes for the tailgate that I attended for homecoming, which was lovely, and thank you, Ms. Russo, and the Student Activities Department for putting those things together. The bonfire, Dr. Sprito and I attended the bonfire this year. Besides a few students trying to sneak in over the fence, they were not our students. I won't say what students they were, but they were not our students. Besides that, was the only snag. It was beautifully done. Thank you to the fire department for coming and for helping to both ignite and put out the fire. But it was really a great event. It was a lovely week. I know we had to change homecoming from this Friday to last Friday due to the way that the playoff schedule ran. I have a football playing son. I have no idea what it means. But anyway, thank you to all the people who were involved in all of those events. This is Spirit Week, so it's great to see so much spirit in the town. I would like to also say on a general comment note, to piggyback after Mr. Cobijo, thank you to everybody who is running for the board. It is the most difficult free job you will ever have. And we wish everyone luck. So please go vote on November 7th. It's very important, and oftentimes that line sort of gets forgotten about on the ballot. The last thing I want to talk about is old business. It is the board bowls. We had discussed at last meeting, the district bowls were approved, but we had put a pin in the board bowl part of it. It's not something that we had done for the past few years because we were piggybacking off of the strategic plan, etc. Dr. Morrell pointed out that board bowls in other districts are typically board related in that it's things like professionally developing ourselves, things that we can control. That was not how we had done it here. And I shared with everyone for review our previous goals and then goals from other towns. I know we've discussed a lot this evening. I didn't get any feedback from anybody via email. I got a couple thank yous. My suggestion is, because there is the potential for the board to change in January in its makeup, that our board year runs January to January. The district year runs, September to June. That's why district goals were approved. My suggestion would be, we sort of put a pin in this, and then when the new board assembles in January, that we then decide what our board goals would be in terms of, I really do like the idea of making them board goals. While we always uphold the district goals, I think, I'm very impressed by the Manchester board in becoming board certified. I am a certificated board member, Mr. Totaro is a certificated board member, Dr. Morell is a certificated board member, but the board as a whole. So that is something we could look into. Is anyone else, did I miss anybody?
I haven't clicked on it, but mine came in
Okay.
at some point this year.
It's a certain number of credits, just like with everything else. I think it's 60 credits, or there's different levels as well. But in any event, if everyone's okay with that, if anybody is, so moved that we have to make the goals now, but if not, I would suggest that we just waited until January, till reorganization, let the new board get their feedback. Is that okay with everybody? I just wanted to touch back on it because we did discuss that we would be bringing it up again at this meeting. We're good with that?
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you real look as far as the election? There's also early voting, so
Yep.
that weekend prior to the election, you can actually go vote in Haledon at different locations. So.
That
It was
is
the
so
last-
easy, I love that.
Yeah.
I would like to try it. I've never tried it.
I voted in Heldon, I just walk in and walk out.
Yeah.
Other than trying to show up at Roosevelt as soon as the door opens so I can get to work. It's so stress-free.
I believe it starts October 28th.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the mail-in ballots to school candidates are on the back.
Okay, yes, send it over. Today is the last day to register to vote. I'm not sure if there's time. Is that digital?
I don't know.
Okay, you can do it, so you still have a few more hours to register to vote. Today's the last day.
It's Passaic County. Yeah, that's they go there and they just look you up. Everything's electronic now, that's why. Yeah.
Are there any other board member comments? No. Okay, we already had our private session at the beginning of the meeting, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by, motion by Mr. Doyle, seconded by Mr. Shortway. Roll call, please.
Ms. Armstrong?
Yes.
Dr. Morell?
Yes.
Mr. Palouse?
Yes.
Mr. Shortway?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clevio?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle? Yes. Mrs. Bell?
Yes.
Thank you for following up on